All right, here we are again. Another podcast. I like doing these solo ones because I feel like I can kind of unwind on these. You know, there's nothing really. There's no pressure. I'm not interviewing anybody. I'm not having these big long conversations. I can just kind of. I wouldn't say be myself because I feel like I am myself during the conversations, but there's no pressure to get information or, you know, carry a conversation or anything like that. I can just kind of do whatever, say what I want, take as much time as I want, as little time as I want, and you know, it helps sometimes to be able to do these, and you know, especially in between podcasts. But anyway, I do plan on having a guest for. Let's see, it'll happen this Thursday, which hopefully the podcast will then be out on Friday or sometime this weekend. It will be with Greg Sewers from the Iron Men. That should be a fun one. I've known that guy for a while, and yeah, it should be a good conversation. I'd like to hear about Chicago, about their second place. I'd like to hear about his travels, his status with Dye, all that good stuff, but that will be for that podcast. This one is more or less just kind of questions, a few topics I wanted to go over and talk about. I wanted to talk about my retirement announcement a little bit and kind of my thoughts and reasoning behind that. But, you know, and kind of hear what you guys have to say and what kind of topics you want to talk about. And fortunately, you guys responded, which is an awesome thing because I love having you guys' help on here. So let's see what we got. We're gonna start with Facebook first, and I'm just gonna get in here quickly. Well, rather quickly. Let's see. Of course, everything is taking forever to load. Stay with me. Stay with me. All right, getting to the post. And thank you everyone who put in a comment and you know, had something to say. I appreciate it. Let's get to the comments. View comments. All right. Let's start with this one from Andrew. What's your opinion on the current state of Chicago Aftershock? Do you think the team should fold if it gets relegated to semi-pro? Sad this will be your last season, Carl. Always loved watching you play. Pro Paintball won't be the same without you. Man, I thank you. I appreciate that. Feel love. But the current state with Chicago Aftershock, it's been tough these past, you know, these past 4, 5 years. And obviously, you know, Chicago Aftershock has been struggling with keeping players, with kind of, you know, staying steady. And you know, it's tough when you're trying to build a team, and every 2 years it's like you have a new team. So you look at all these teams that are doing well, and for me, the reason I feel like they're doing well is because they've been together for so long. With a lot of the core guys being together. I mean, you have a few exceptions. You know, AC Dallas. Their core guys have been playing together for a long time. They have a lot of high quality athletes and players, but the Impacts, the Dynasties, the Houston Heats, a lot of those guys have been playing together for a long time, and you know, they know how to play off of each other. They know they're so well seasoned that they can do that. Now with an Aftershock, I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's really tough to be able to get into that flow state when, you know, you're rotating rosters every 2 years. if not less. So I think that's tough. As far as getting, if we do get relegated to semi-pro, what would happen? I don't know. What do I think? I wouldn't want to see Chicago Aftershock in semi-pro. I'd like to see the organization stick around. I don't know how that's going to how it's going to play out, but I'd like to see him stick around. You know, that's regardless of what happens, whether they stay in or we have a tough time. I don't know. Regardless, I try not to think about it. You know, I try and take each event as its own, obviously a part of a season, but you know, you just got to play. You can't think about stuff like that, and you know, it just kind of is what it is. It's going to happen whenever it's going to happen. Thanks, man. Appreciate the question. Let's see. This is a question from Matt. How necessary is it for a front Dorito player to be able to dive? I had dye elbow pads that were used for less than a year, and I believe I was diving according to how the pros teach, Greenspan and you, but I still got elbow burst. Sorry, I probably messed that one up. From diving and upper body lifting. I'm wondering if it is even worth diving from this point forward, since I am more susceptible to get it again. Here's a quick vid of me diving. If you have your critiques, sure. Let's see it. All right. So, first, from what I can see, I think it's always necessary for a player to be able to dive. I think there's different situations on, you know, when you should or should not dive. And a lot of today's paintball, I don't think, depending, well, if you're saying front player, yes, you need to be able to dive. But if you're a 2 or a mid player, or I think a lot of guys now do a lot of hip slides. They do a lot of standing knee slides into a corner with their markers up. I think a lot of running and shooting is happening now where not a lot of people are diving too much. What I say in a lot of my clinics is to get as low as you possibly can, and before you do your dive. I mean, that way there's less impact on your body. There is, you know, you're not risking your marker or your equipment or anything like that by slamming it into the ground. Sometimes there's that occasional where you have to just dive out of the way of a paintball, and it's not going to be pretty. But yeah, my suggestion is definitely getting as low as possible, getting your body down to the ground as low as you can before everything starts hitting the ground physically, and use those arms and those legs as support, and really accept the ground once you hit it. A lot of stiffness or not enough rigidness. It's like a happy medium. If you don't have that happy medium, it's going to be real tough. And judging by your dive, that is, see, okay, so you dive a lot of weight on your elbows. So what I would say is maybe extend them out a little bit to where maybe you're not on your elbows so much, and try and extend it a little bit. Use a little bit more of your core when you're diving, rather than bending your back and just falling on your elbows, if that makes any sense. But yeah, thank you for the question, Matt. Appreciate it. Scotty says clinics here in St. Louis. I would love to do a clinic down there. This question is from Derek. I would be curious to hear what the next big thing in your life is going to be. Obviously, you are a guy that is competitive enough to compete at the highest level of one sport. That isn't something that you are going to be able to put away in a box at the back of your closet. Yeah, I've always been competitive my entire life, and you know, if it's whatever it is, I try and do my best at it, and I try and, you know, I compete in one way or another. But I think the next big step for me is becoming a father too. A lot of the younger guys or anybody who doesn't have kids yet, it's a huge responsibility and a huge job. You're seeing a lot of the pros now are becoming dads and everything, but or moms for all the girl paintball players out there. But it's a big responsibility, and it's a lot of time, especially playing paintball and traveling. It's a lot of time away from your family that that you don't want to do more and more. And the more and more that I get, my son's, now 2.5. I have a little one on the way, and I just want to be around my wife and my family more. And but I still am gonna I have that void. I will have that void still after this year, and who knows? I'm gonna try and fill it with jiu-jitsu. I am trying to take up bow hunting. So I'm looking at bows right now. I'm trying to figure that whole thing out. I really really want to get into hunting. But that's all the exterior stuff that outside the family stuff that I want to do. But yeah, I don't have any giant goals yet. I have some prods in the fire right now. I'm still going to be involved with the sport one way or the other, but that's all going to come out soon on what's going to happen, and we'll just going to have to kind of see how that goes. Thanks for the question, Derek. This one is from Justin. You play back in Toledo indoor time as well as myself. How do you feel the gameplay has changed from then and now? And do you feel the sport kind of lost or is missing something that it once had back in the day? So what I think has changed, I think it's a lot more methodical. I think there's a lot more talent, driven players. I think the game has now become a lot more like chess and a lot less like checkers, if that makes any sense. But every piece counts. Every move counts. Every mistake counts. And those mistakes are exploited, I feel like, now more than ever, when you can maybe get away with some things back then, but the game, it's slowed down, but in a way it's kind of stayed the same depending on the field layout. Look at Chicago. This last event was pretty quick on the snake side, and it was fun. My vote is to keep that field into World Cup and have it at World Cup. That would be awesome. But that's obviously not going to happen. But I think it's field dependent. It's team dependent. There's just so many different games of play. But I feel like everything slows down on Sunday. But there's a lot of factors that go into it. But as far as what is it missing? I think it's missing that kind of edgy, just rawness that paintball had back then. I think it's very cut and dry and clean now. There's no kind of edginess to it. New York Extreme kind of puts a little edginess to it with the shit talking and all that good stuff. But I think that's what it is. I think it's a lot of cut and dry. No mistakes. Everybody's just squeaky clean. When back then it was just a lot of shit talking, and everybody's friends off the field too. But I feel like there's a lot more rivalries and all that. But yeah, I think that's what it's missing. Thanks, Justin. Let's see. Chance. Your opinion on what we can do to raise awareness to bring paintball back to the Midwest, especially in the Northwest Ohio area. We need a field. That's number one. We need more fields to pop up. We need more tournament fields to pop up. Obviously, more fields in general for paintball to grow. But as far as competitive paintball, we need a field here in Ohio. I've been looking at it more and more. I've been kind of throwing around the idea. It's It's expensive, but I don't know. It's an option that I have and I was thinking about. So who knows? But I mean, that's what just playing out what we need is just more fields. Richard, what made you decide this time that it? What made you decide the time was right for you to retire? Also, now that you will no longer be playing pro, will you finally make it over to the European event or even taste the CPPS in the UK? How I knew it was time was that I knew and I felt the game itself changing. In ways, I feel like I'm just not as effective as a player as I once was. I feel like my knees are not the greatest, and I really would like to walk and play with my son when I'm older. I mean, playing my position or playing front, you can ask any front guy, man. It's tough, and there's no forgiveness. I mean, we were pads and everything, but slamming our bodies in the ground every time is it's a lot tougher than what we play it off. And I think just an accumulation of that, and then family as well. So it just kind of felt right, kind of that whole thing where it just it's about time. And I've been through enough scenarios and been involved in so much where I feel like I'm not going to. I'm definitely gonna miss playing, but I think it's just kind of I'm excited for a new chapter in involvement in paintball in my life. So as far as European event goes, I would love to come over. I'll have to figure out. My biggest thing is just having that time off of my 9-to-5 job to be able to take that week's worth of travel and tournament play and all that, and actually be able to use that time without taking them away from vacation to my wife or my family or anything. So, I mean, that's the biggest kicker. I feel like I'm sniffling. I need to get I don't have any kind of tissues. Nothing. Okay. But thanks, Richard. This one's from Kevin. What do you think was different back when players like you, Fatty, Montressor were coming up? And how do we get back to having good young talent show up from the Midwest again? It's like I said earlier. I think it's having more fields. I feel like the biggest thing was we had a lot of paintball fields, and the more fields we have, the more competition we have, and I think that's the biggest thing. I just don't. A lot of the fields have closed up around here, and until we have more breeding ground for those players, I think it's going to be all bottlenecked into the very few that we have, and it's going to be tough. But yeah, I think more fields for sure. This one's from Calvin. What are the main aspects that differentiate pro players from semi-pro players? It's a small line. I think it's a very small line of what the difference is. I think a lot of semi-pro teams can hang with a lot of the pro teams. We've noticed that with the new 4 pro teams that came in, and I feel like they're the only thing. The biggest factor that kind of separates the two, I think, is the competition. Is the experience at the pro level. The pro teams have been playing the pro teams for a long time and playing top teams for a long time. The semi-pro teams have been playing semi-pro teams for a long time. And I think that's the only thing. Other than that, I think the talent is just about the same. I think they're very close to the same. And the more and more experience they have at the pro level, the better the teams are going to get. I mean, hands down. Thank you, Calvin. This one is from Troy. Where did you play when you lived in Mankato? Why did you move to Mankato? If I'm driving through where you live now, where should I stop and eat? Let's see. So, where did I play when I lived in Mankato? I played up at Air Assault, which I believe is still there. I don't think it's the same location, though. I could be wrong. But why did I move to Mankato? When I was young, I had a girlfriend out there, and I moved out there for her. And if I'm driving through where I live now, where should I stop and eat? So right now, if you ran through my town, there's a place called Moe's. It's really good, kind of just hometown cooking. They make a great burger, and these naked chicken nugget things called Mo Balls. they're delicious. But I would have to say Mo's. It's kind of like a crowd favorite around here. All right, thanks, Troy. This one is from George. Paintball's broken visual language, and how the webcast can solve the multiple focal point problem. So multiple focal point problem, I would have to say, would be more cameras or better camera angles. I think that's how you would fix your multi-focal point problem. As far as on-field play, but I mean, is that what you're describing as the paintball's broken visual language? So we're trying to transfer the visual to the person who doesn't really know what's going on. Is that? I think there's a lot of solutions for that. I think there's a ton. So it's like, what we need to do is we need to figure out that communication line, right? So we obviously are doing a good job of being able to communicate to players, but how do we communicate to people who don't really know too much about it, and how do we draw them in? I think that's the biggest question. And how do we keep it interesting and make it interesting even more for people involved in the sport? There's a ton of answers for that. I am involved with a group who's trying to figure that out, and I think we've come to a few solutions. And I think within, I think by the time World Cup swings around, we should be hearing from it. But yeah, I think there's a lot that could be answered. Nick, this one's from Nick. Coaching in the near future? ? I don't know. I would like to coach. There's no, I mean, maybe a local team around here, but I just there's no one really to coach around here, even around here. But I wouldn't be traveling to Chicago or anything to be coaching a team. But it would be fun though. I can do some local tournaments coaching maybe. This one's from Luke. How was your time living in Minnesota? I loved it. I thought it was great. I met some really awesome people. I met Brandon Daly, the other kid from Bears Eating Broccoli. If you haven't seen it yet, click Bears Eating Broccoli on YouTube. That'll explain a lot. But there's some fun times, man. But I had a great time. It was cold as shit, but I mean, beautiful, beautiful scenery, great people, funny accent. It was a good time. Let's see if I think that might be it for the Facebook stuff. If I missed it, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna head over to Instagram now. Too many platforms. I'm thinking about getting rid of Facebook at the end of this year and just doing one, just maintaining one. That's all you need. That's all you need is one. Just one. All right, let's see here. David Mullis. Why is David Mullis so much cooler than JJ and CJ? Well, that would be... I'm sure JJ and CJ would be able to answer that one. But let's see. Like many others, it was sad to hear you announce your retirement from this wonderful sport. But will you be exploring the option of doing clinics here and there, namely at Badlands, since I'm sure Bruno is going to miss you? I would love to do one at Badlands. And I would love to do them all over the place. I actually plan on doing a handful of clinics next year. I have a great time teaching anyone willing to learn, and I'm anywhere within decent traveling distance, I'm there. I'll definitely do a clinic. So if you guys have any questions about it, go ahead and hit me up on social media, anything like that. We can hook it up. I still have snot running down my nose. Ugh. All right, here we go. I don't know if it's the tea or what, but I mean, it's like orange and spices. It's really good though. Let's see here. How many 10-man events will you be going to next year with the Gunfighters? Ooh, that's a good question. I definitely plan on doing the ICC. That one for sure, and I'll probably do the one in Chicago. But all the other ones that I'm traveling to, I probably will not make it to those, honestly. But Chicago and ICC, I will be there. Being that you have accomplished competing at the pro level since 2004, is there any benefit to skipping divisions to compete at a higher level? Or is it best, in regards to the development of a player, to compete within the next division closest to your rank? That's a good question. Because I actually went from... So with Tipman Effect, I was playing in Division 2 with Tipman Effect. And Tipman Effect X, which was our X-Ball team. And then I actually made it on the pro team for Tipman for 7-man, and that was a whole nother level. But I you know, and then right after that, I think it was the next year is when I started playing with Excessive, and that's, I mean, was I developed enough? I think I had some of the basics down, but as far as honing everything in, I think I was still a divisional player. I think I had some skills, but nothing. I don't think anything that would define me as a professional player. I mean, even the whole reason why I got on Excessive was because I was fast, not necessarily because I was a good paintball player. I feel. I mean, my gun skills were still not even close to where they would be, and I learned so much on Excessive. I mean, that was really my kind of my grounds for learning everything, because I'm just naturally fast. But those guys over there, Maddie, Micah, I mean, Nikki, Rich, all those guys over there were pretty much took me under their wing and just showed me not only just how to be aware of your surroundings, proper gunfighting technique, and I mean, I was used to shooting a 98, a custom 98 Tipman, so that's a big difference when you start switching over to a top end marker, and you know, there's a whole posture change. There's a whole different way I had to go about it, man. I was tough on myself when I first started because I didn't think I could make it. I really didn't, because my skills were not where I thought they would have to be to play pro. I had to learn fast, and those guys were so awesome on getting me up to speed and really honing in on everything, because otherwise, man, I just think it would have taken me longer to get to. And the thing is too, though, but you know, those guys knew what they were doing. I'm not saying that, you know, my friends and everything on Tipman, like, we just knew what we knew. We didn't have anybody really to teach us anymore. It was kind of like, here we are. We kind of peaked, and I think that's kind of what happened with a lot of guys on Tipman was you tend to peak when you get there. There's no more learning. I mean, there's more situational learning and everything, but you're not really, when you're at the top of that team like that, it's, unless you're teaching guys, and even when you're doing that, I feel like I didn't know as much to teach people anything. I was still a kid, and it wasn't really until I got on Excessive when I really found out that I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, and I needed to work on everything. But I think it's all depending on the person. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are quick learners. A lot of people need that time to cure and really kind of hone in on everything, and then other people just, you know, take off with it. So I think it depends on the player, because a lot of people react to things differently and learn at a different level. Oh, Brad from Inside the Net, what are you working on next? So I have some things that I'm working on that I really am hoping that are going to kind of change the industry. Whether it be, you know, I don't want to talk about them. I mean, I will eventually. They will come out, and I'm stoked to be a part of it. And we're just gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. I mean, you don't know until you try. And I think that's all we're doing is we're trying. And I have a couple products that are hopefully going to be coming out soon or take off soon. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I have a few things. Are you going to explore more outlets to continue growth of paintball? Yes, and that is directly going to correlate with the last question. I definitely am. When do you know it's time to retire? I kind of answered that one a little bit as far as, just knowing and being around for as long as I have, and your body tends to tell you to. Have you ever not liked the marker you were using due to sponsorship or equipment? As a sponsored player, I mean, as a sponsored player, I'm obviously pretty obligated to say, not necessarily say that I love something, but not to talk crap about anything. But have there been stuff throughout the years that I wasn't a big fan of? Yeah, of course. At first, I wasn't a big fan of the ego. Just because of how bulky and heavy it was, but all that was a weight issue. I thought they shot great. I think it was just a weight issue, and then over the years they just started to chop away and slowly chisel at this thing until it was a finely tuned machine. Now I love the damn things, but I've only ever really shot, Eclipse markers, and I've been very fortunate because I really do like shooting their markers. I guess I don't really have anything to compare it to, but because I've only shot that. But I mean, I'm fine with only shooting Planet throughout my career. I think the Ego is the best shooting marker. I enjoy it. I have a lot of people tell me after they shoot my marker that it shoots great. So yeah. But as far as equipment goes, I mean, there has been pads throughout the years that have sucked. There's been pants, there's been all kinds of stuff, like just throughout the years and throughout the development of paintball and the growth of paintball and the technologies and loaders and all this shit. There's been definitely some questionable gear out there. Best Brunoism of 2018. Man, he's had a few. But I think he says Ferdoodle. He says Ferdoodle a lot. I think it's Ferdoodle. Maybe I'm wrong. But I hope that didn't stop the recording. No, it didn't. Okay. But for boot, what does he say? Now I can't think of anything. He says shit all the time. I like when he goes, or he does like turn on and shoot your gun. It's like, he does all kinds of shit. It's great. I love Bruno. He's great. Let's see. Next big PB event you plan on playing? Big game, classic event. Ooh. Next PB event you plan on playing? Well, World Cup would be the next big game. But as far as like a scenario match, I don't really have anything in mind as of yet. But I do plan on doing the ICC next year. Is Ollie really coming back? I don't know. That would definitely be a question for Oliver. I haven't really heard the rumor, but I'm also not big on rumors or like hearing anything online. I feel like I'm always the last to find out anything. But I haven't heard that. If it's true, great. If it's not, great. I mean, I've had my experiences with Oliver. I've gotten to see him play. I got to play against him, and I wouldn't trade that. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great player. But we'll see. I'd like to talk to you about just your life in general. Outside of paintball or being paintball famous, how are you? What do you think of our current political climate? What do you like to do with your son? How has having a child influenced you as a dad, a person, or a husband? So, political climate. That's a good question. Because I don't really talk about my personal life too much on here. But outside of paintball and paintball famous, how are you? So I'm good. Thank you for asking. What do you think of our political climate? I hate politics so much because I'm not big on the left and I'm not big on the right. I'm kind of like an in-betweener. I agree and disagree with Republicans, and I agree and disagree with Democrats. I think there's shitty people on either side, and I think there's really good people on either side. I wish that I wish it was a lot easier than what it is. I mean, a lot of people say, well, if he would just do this, or if she would just do that, or if it were like this, or, I mean, we don't know. I mean, what's the right way? What's the best way? I feel like I think everything is evolving all the time. It's just like how I talk about paintball. Every 2 years, it's evolving. I mean, with the current state of everything, everything's still evolving. Everything's moving. Everything's changing constantly. I mean, look at style now. Style, fashion is like terrible 90s style. It's like stuff that I wore that my parents threw me in when I was a kid, and that's like in style now. I don't get it. But I mean, everything's different. Everything's weird. I mean, but everybody has their own taste. Everybody has their own their pursuit of happiness. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Everybody has their own idea of what happy is. That's why we have so many flavors of ice cream. Is because not everybody likes vanilla. Not everybody likes chocolate. Everybody's different, man. And yeah, you'll start grouping people up into these and them, and those and this, and I think we're really though starting to lose kind of who we are as people. We're all individuals, but I feel like we get so caught up on some of the small, minute details of things when what we really need to do is focus on just being nice to people. Spreading love, man. Keeping things in order, obviously, because everybody, we can't have just crazy people running around. But we have to really listen to everybody. We can't just take a majority vote on things if that's what we think is best. And by that, I mean some people will say our problem and our issues are because there's so many. Everybody has an opinion now, and in ways I think that's great, and in ways I think that's terrible, because you get to hear everybody's. And some people have great ideas, some people have terrible ideas, and I don't have an answer. I don't think anybody does. I mean, I think people will say that they do, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. I mean, if one person says that that this is going to be best for people, no, it might be for a few, but it's not going to be. It won't be for a few as well. That's why the whole pursuit of happiness thing. Everybody has their own happiness, but if we can just be realistic and common sense and nice, the world will be a better place. I know that's not the issue, because we have religions spreading, this hate and this, like, you have to be a part of this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. Otherwise, this place that you go to after you die, that nobody knows what happens. Otherwise, this will happen to you at that spot. Like, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I don't know. I'm not religious. I'm not put under any umbrella of any kind of religion. And so, because I don't know what's out there. I believe there's something's out there. I like the, thinking about, I've had a lot of experiences with paranormal and everything. I love all that stuff. I love it. I love energies. I love, spirit and just the feeling. I know there's something like that out there, but as far as religions go, I think there's too much bullshit out there. But that's a tangent. I don't know really what I'm talking about. Everybody just needs to be nicer to each other. I think that's just one part of his question. What do you like to do with your son? So I love going on walks to parks with my son and my wife. We love going to parks. I love turning over rocks. I love getting in the lake and the waters and the woods and everything, and turning over logs and being in nature. Like, he loves finding toads and caterpillars and everything, and we just really enjoy being outside. And I can't stress that enough for parents, man. There's plenty of opportunity to look at your phone and find out what's going on every single day, and there's plenty of time to do that. But I feel like there's really not enough time to get outside and enjoy the company and the learning and the just enjoyment of seeing your child you discover things, is what I'm trying to say, is like just find things out and be outside. It's so huge. I mean, there's a lot of things now with gaming and all this shit, and there's so many people on their phones and online just doing things, and they're glued to their phone, and their kids are seeing them, or their kids are in front of a tablet or whatever. I mean, there's times for it, right? There's times when you got to clean your house, or you got to go grocery shopping, you got to do something, and if the kid doesn't want to, cooperate, you got to reach for it, you got to do it. But I try and do it as least amount as possible. But I think we need to learn how to be more patient. I think everything is so instant, and until we learn to do that, until we learn to be more patient and to realize that, I mean, you only live once. We're only here for a finite amount of time. But I think that's all the more reason to take the time to go outside. And if you think going outside and walking in a park and just being around your family and just being outside in general and doing things outside is a waste of time, then your time is not valuable. I feel like those times and those moments are way more valuable to me than going online and seeing what the latest gossip is for something that has nothing to do with me. I'm not saying that I would be involved in something that has to do with me and I'd be online or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I have no control over it. It doesn't make my life better or worse to know if a Kardashian is getting married. All that shit. It's just pointless to me. And I mean, there's a lot of love online. There's a lot of hate online. But I just feel if you can get away from that for a little bit and really enjoy the time and the meticulousness of being around for your kid or your children in those times where they're just sitting down playing with blocks and you're just there with them, and just take more time, man. Just take more time. You have a lot more time than what society and these things and everything think you have. You have a lot more time on your hands. Just manage it better, I guess. How has having a child influenced you as a dad and a person or a husband? It's kind of really shown me that I'm not the only one that I should be thinking about. I have more things, and I think that has a lot to do with my retirement and everything too. I think I've been selfish enough. I've enjoyed all these times and travels and people that I've met. Love more than anything the people that I've met. But I think now I just want my time to now be occupied by them, and a lot more of my my attention and my just time to them. Excuse me. And it's just influenced me because I just know that there's more things that are just more important to me, and it's them and him and my soon to my daughter that will soon be here. It's weird to say. By having another kid, having one kid is definitely is crazy, but then having another, you just don't really. You think I'm like, oh, I had one kid, but it's totally different. But it's maybe be a better person for sure. It's definitely helped with my patience. It's helped with my anger issues at times. I know you guys probably heard. I accidentally threw my loader in Chicago because I was so mad because of a situation that happened, and we were in this game, and there's this call that was not made, and I was frustrated. I ended up apologizing to the ref because I kind of yelled at him a lot, but it's the heat of the match. That's the sport. But luckily, I wasn't kicked out or anything or suspended. But I've just kind of learned to control that more. Not in that situation, but I've definitely settled down a lot, and I think he's helped me to do that. Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. I like talking about that. Why did paintball ruin my life? And I don't know. I shot him a message. He didn't really give me too many details, but I don't know. I don't know 100%. I saw a few of his messages and that he put out there, but I don't really know the exact reason. Hopefully he comes back. I thought it was a good channel. It was very informative for people coming up and for people involved right now. I think it was a great thing. But I mean, who knows? There's a lot of things that go into putting on a production like that. So hopefully he comes back. I'd like to see him back. What did Aftershock need to be a top contender? Funding. Which guest? Okay, so that's the first part of the question. So I'll answer that. So funding would definitely help. I feel like if we were able to get everybody out to practice all the time, I mean, does that mean funding or does that mean people being closer? I think it's a little bit of both. And I think just time together, for sure. Which guest or episode has been your favorite so far? And any really nostalgic gear you can't get rid of. So let's do the which guest or episode has been your favorite so far. I've enjoyed all my guests. But the ones that I like the ones I do with Schulte and Cody. The Halloween Chorizo was pretty fun, just because we bust each other's balls, and it was a good time. I really like that episode. It's tough with the guests because a lot of them are Skype, but I thought the Bart one was pretty good too. But look at my shoulder. It's like having a muscle spasm right now. I had jiu-jitsu this morning, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't know if you can see it. And it's done. Oh. That's weird. Okay. Any really nostalgic gear you can't get rid of? So I have a bunch of stuff that I can't get rid of. I don't know if I ever will, but I have headbands. I have a headband that I've had forever that I used as a pack band. All these jerseys. My first jersey I ever bought. My goggles that I wore when I played on Excessive. I don't know. I have a bunch of weird kind of knick-knacky stuff. I even have stuff in my gear bag that I've had forever that have just kind of like been there. But I have a bunch of stuff. Favorite pro player in the past and current. So One of my favorites, past, has to be Angel Fregosa. I think that dude was a killer and an inspiration for me on playing that position, in the snake. I enjoyed playing against him. I enjoyed watching him. He had a giant influence on my style of play and just aggressiveness, more than anything. Probably he was great to watch. And current, man, that's a good question because there's a lot of good players playing now. Man, that is a good question. I enjoy watching Goldman play. I'm trying to think. I think that kid from DMG, Brusselbeck, I think he's definitely has a future ahead of him. I enjoy watching him. That's on the snake side though. So what about like the middle and the Dorito side? TJ Janner is very good. He's very methodical. He's cool to play against. He's a good gunfighter. He's patient. Cody Markowski from Infamous is pretty fun to watch. He doesn't seem, and this is no offense, Cody, if you listen to this, no offense at all, but he doesn't seem like the athletic type, but when you play against him or you watch him play, he's always up in the shit. Like he'll start in the back and he'll do the run through, or he'll like make a move up somewhere and you're like, oh, that's Cody. Like I enjoy Cody's fun to watch because he's unpredictable. Yeah, that's what I have to say. That's all the questions. But yeah, I mean, to kind of go over a few. I mean, another thing about the whole retirement thing. Thank you everybody who had messaged me and kind of course, podcasting 101. Turn your stuff on silent. But thank you everybody who messaged me after they heard my retirement and everything like that. Dude, paintball is such a cool community because I feel like we're all so close, except for a select few who just like to troll around on everybody. But I feel like everybody's very close and supportive, no matter what happens. I mean, obviously, there's going to be teams that do well. There's going to be teams that do poorly. There's going to be players on one side, on the other side. I mean, regardless, I feel like myself as a person and as a player, I really tried to come off as somebody who's approachable, who you can talk to, who you can chat with, because that's what I wanted and I enjoyed when I was coming up was people, was pros opening up and being able to have that. There were some that didn't, and I'm sure there's some now that don't. But I think it's cool. I try and put myself back in my shoes when I was young, and I was kind of starstruck by a lot of these pros. If I can ask them questions, if I had all this social media platforms to be able to message people and talk to people and just to hear back from them would be amazing. So I really tried to be that person. Obviously I felt like I was very competitive on the field. I tried to be as unpredictable as possible. Whether that went in my favor or not was always kind of up in the air. But I felt like I've always been exciting to watch, but I feel like that's because I always had fun whenever I was on the field. I tried not to put too much pressure on my shoulders, and I really tried to just have fun playing paintball, and I think that's what it comes down to. A lot of people go out there and they try and be super technical, and maybe that's the way to go. I mean, maybe that's the strategy. Maybe that's the strategy is go out there and just be super technical, but for me, that's not the case. I'm going to play my style of paintball, which really means just to have fun and try not to be too predictable, and find the seams that nobody else has found yet. Pull off moves that nobody sees coming, and I'm willing to take that risk, and hopefully paintball doesn't turn into where nobody's taking risks at all and everybody's shooting a million pods off their back and there's no excitement in it anymore. That's what I'm afraid of. That's what I don't want to happen. And I feel like I've always been pretty entertaining to watch, and I've had fun, man. I enjoy playing this game. It is a fun game, and I will retire before I start playing back or anything like that. But that's just me, because I enjoy getting really close and bunkering people and trying not to get bunkered, and I just kind of want to go out as a risk taker, but an entertaining one on top of that. Who just enjoyed what he did, and yeah, that's it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all the support and everything. I love it. I'm sure I'll have a couple more of these before World Cup hits. I'm definitely gonna have more guests. I plan on having one with Greg later in the week. I plan on having 2 more. I don't know the guests yet, but I plan on having 2 more next week, and then following up to World Cup. And I plan on doing it after World Cup. So I definitely continue. I will continue the podcast. I'll keep doing this until it's not fun for me anymore. But thank you all. Thank you all so much for listening and for contributing questions and opinions and comments and support for myself and the podcast and Aftershock and the sport itself. So that is all that I have for today. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you again here soon on the Playing On podcast. Later.